Thank you so much for that very kind introduction, and I'm really glad to be here in USpeak Club. It's for the first time, actually, I think I'm interacting with all of you. Today's session is interesting for me also, because usually whenever we speak of Toastmasters, we always think of personal development. That is, as a person, I should be a better speaker, and I should be able to give opinions, take part in discussions, and so on. However, there are many occasions where people doubt whether in a corporate Toastmasters clubs have a place, because a corporate anyway provides a good platform on its own through its internal training programs, HRD departments, learning centers, where specific trainings are given already to employees to develop various aspects of skills, right? And the question always comes, does a corporate really need Toastmaster clubs? Now, I am in a position to answer that a bit because I had, like you, I had also been part of a big corporate who had their own training facilities, but they also had a very, very old Toastmaster club of employees. I think very recently they had their 600th session. So let me share with you a small presentation with the help of which I will put forth my views on this subject. Is it visible, the presentation?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So as I started saying with the question, does a corporate setup need a Toastmasters club? Now, I think what we should look at is what is different about a corporate compared to an individual where community clubs are there. In my opinion, what I saw myself when I worked in the corporate situation with teams as a team leader, and also where I was part of other teams, that the main crux of the matter when you're working with teams in an organization is how do we optimize team knowledge. And by team knowledge, I mean the knowledge bank that individual team members carry with them, doing various functions of their jobs, knowing their jobs at various levels with various degrees of efficiency. That knowledge lies with the team individuals need to come onto a common basis. That is, the widening of the knowledge base happens. The other aspect which makes a team more powerful in what it does and makes it more effective is when the knowledge base is deepened. And by deepened, I mean when the senior members are able to impart some knowledge to the junior members as to how to do things better. They're able to guide. They're able to be small leaders from their own front. So this process of teams that is there in the organization, which takes the organization forward, and how the teams work is very, very important for an organization's success. Now, if you really look at it, widening a knowledge base is actually based on communication, how well the team members communicate with each other and they share their knowledge. And deepening of a knowledge base, that is the senior members guiding junior members, leading a team and so on and so forth, are basically leadership skills. So in order to make the total knowledge base inside a team very, very effective, all the members need to be good in communication, and all of them, at least some of them, have to be good in leadership. Then only the team becomes really effective. Now, Toastmasters is such an organization and such a process, more than an organization, which is able to help any individual, he may be a team member in an organization or otherwise, in both communication and leadership skills, right? Now, as I said earlier, most of the corporates, like I'm sure your company may also have it, may have their own training cell, and they regularly hold programs on communication, leadership, time management, this and that, which is identified at the beginning of the year and carried out throughout the rest of the year. So what is basically different about Toastmasters in a corporate setup? Why should it be additionally required? There must be an answer to this because there are so many clubs which are corporate clubs. So let's look at what's different. There's one thing which is significantly different about in the process of Toastmasters. If you recollect this quote by Ralph Smedley, who's the founder, which probably indicates the basic philosophy by why Toastmasters is a success, is that the process of Toastmastering is very, very enjoyable. Now, there is one thing which I can assure you after having attended many, many training courses which are done by the company, that mostly they are not enjoyable. They are a process sometimes that we sit through, that we sometimes we're scared of, worried about. Performance anxiety is there, and we also wonder what would be the result of the training, how it is going to be used. Enjoyment is limited, whereas in a Toastmasters process, the way it is done, enjoyment is there. Let's look at a few specifics why enjoyment is there. Firstly, it's not a class-based system, it's not a classroom. It is club-based, as you evidently know. And you may be an MT in the organization and I may be an executive. But when we are both part of the Toastmasters Club, both of us are equal. That level vanishes, and that anxiety related to that level's recognition also vanishes. Secondly, the courses or the projects that we want to do are a la carte, means the individual can choose, maybe helped by his team leader, helped by his mentor as to what is good for him. And it's not a set menu like it's in an official training course that I held throughout the year. There's a lot of choice involved, and choice means enjoyment. The pace can be individual. Again, since it's not a classroom training, everybody is not taken through the same thing at the same time. You learn at your own speed. Fourth, we present our speeches to members and not to bosses. When I used to attend trainings in my own company, and I'll be presenting something and I'll see my manager sitting there, listening to the presentation, there'll be always an anxiety as to how it is being perceived and whether he's judging me on this. In a Toastmasters, the presentation is not to a friend, it's to a member, it's to another club officer. It's not a boss at all. The feedback that comes after the speeches are given, after the performance is done, it's not like an HRD performance review. It's not going to affect your career. It comes from the experienced members in the club who tell you how your communication could be better, right? That's enjoyable. And very, very importantly, when we are practicing leadership projects in Toastmasters, it is offline, which means it's not a company project, right? A live company project is a much more anxious thing to practice on, because I'll always be worried if I do, can I do it? If I do badly, what will happen? And even my boss may be worried that I give this job to Rajat, God knows whether he'll screw it up. Now, this is offline. You are going to take projects inside Toastmasters, which, whether you succeed or not, doesn't have any effect on the company's bottom line. So isn't that an enjoyable thing to do? So this is what's different in Toastmasters compared to what is a company's in-house training program. Well, it's going to be enjoyable, no doubt. But the question is it effective? And by effective, I mean, if I, as a team manager, feel that these are the places where my team members should improve, whether in communication or leadership, does the Toastmaster structure provide this tool of improving those aspects? Let's take a look. Now, let's say communication skills. So when I again was a team leader, and I'd be sitting in a team meeting, the thing which I'll mentally telling myself to the members is, please open your mouth. What do I mean by that? There will invariably be some team members who are not attentive, who are not listening at all to what's going on. And then you ask them a question, they're lost as to what's happening. Or they may be attentive, but they are not participating. They don't want to speak up, tell their opinion on their own. Or even if I'm asking somebody for an opinion, he doesn't give it. He's shy. He may have an opinion which is not sharing. Or they may not be comfortable presenting things formally. Like there is a particular subject on which one team member is good, and we want to know about it, what he knows on that subject, or something which is done, which is of value to the company, and we all want to share in it, and this fellow cannot present. Or if I'm the team member, I feel shy about presenting. So these are the aspects in a team where if communication improves, the team gains. Now, let's see what is there in Toastmasters which helps these. In a typical Toastmasters session, most of you would be aware, but for the benefit of those who may be new in today's group, a Toastmaster session has firstly prepared speeches. It has impromptu speeches, which are called table topics. It has got certain roles which are played by different role players like grammar, hesitation, and so on, giving feedback on those. And formal feedback to speakers on whatever speeches they gave or some projects they did. So these are the 4 sorts of things about which Toastmasters speak in a club session. So how does that help us in opening their mouths? See, when we take up roles, like grammarian, like an evaluator, or an active listener, who's somebody who gives quiz questions at the end of the session to the audience, these are focused at developing these attention skills. It forces a person to become more attentive, and becoming attentive in a meeting is a habit. This sort of role taking helps people to develop that habit. When people take up roles, like I said, grammarian or accountant, timer, and they present reports, this is a sort of forced participation in a group on a relatively small matter, right? So this willy-nilly pulls those team members into participating inside the team activity. Impromptu speaker, table topic, a very good tool of ensuring participation of people, getting them into the habit of participation. Opinion, giving an opinion. Again, impromptu speaking, ask for an opinion from a person. So it improves his skill of presenting whatever opinion he has in a coherent manner in a very brief period of time. And if it's a speech evaluator, he'll be doing it in a more elaborate manner. But giving an opinion is a skill that has to be developed if it has to be structured and effective. And these help in opinion development. Similarly, the skills of giving a proposal, presenting a case to the group, when people give prepared speeches in Toastmasters, they develop this skill, and there is so much variety of what sort of speeches are given. Presenting a proposal, researching, software, storytelling, and the way the speech is given, using vocal variety, descriptive language, even if it is a report on maybe a program structure or a system development that is being done, when we use tools of speaking, it makes that speech much more interesting. And people will not nod off, even if it's a boring subject, if you know what tools to use to keep people's attention on for those 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 20 minutes, whatever the presentation period may be. So prepared speaking skills are very important. It is sometimes an impression that companies have, people in the company have, that good communication is required only by salespeople. Not so. For the salesperson, because he interacts with outside people, he has to be good in communication. But I know many successful salespeople who are not good in communication also. So there's a lot of other things which go into it. Whereas if you're in a team which doesn't require you to speak normally, like I used to handle logistics at one time, and the team members used to be working on the computer all day. Where is the need to speak? But if you read these, what I'm talking about here, it is required for those members to give their opinion, to participate, to give a presentation on what they're doing in order to increase the knowledge base of the team, right? So it's important that team members, even in organizations or even in teams which are not sales related, which are back office related or which are maybe working more with systems, they also need to know how to communicate their things. Now, the other aspect, which is that Toastmasters focuses on, is leadership. Now, in what way is, first of all, leadership incorporated into the Toastmasters syllabus or curriculum? Oh, before that, like I did for communication, let me share with you what I felt was missing from some of the members from the leadership point of view when I kept on interacting with them. Will he, won't he? What does this wedding mean? It means that will he develop into a better person or won't he? I want to know. As a team leader, I want to know that. But how do I get to know that? Would he be able to handle a meeting on his own? Would he be able to lead a team? Would this person under me able to manage a project on his own? And is he good enough to inspire a group? Now, how do I know these things? In the job that we do day in and day out, it's not possible unless we actually give them a task which they perform in this manner, using the skills which are required here. Now, what does Toastmaster have that can mesh with these? Let's take a look at what Toastmasters curriculum gives us. First of all, it gives us a focus area of learning. So depending on which is the area of mastery this particular person requires, the path can be chosen either by him by his own choice or with the help of his team leader, his manager, his mentor, whoever can evaluate well which is the aspect which needs development in him. It can be a gap filling exercise or it can be a forward development exercise. And if a team member says that, boss, in 5 years I want to sit where you're sitting, I want to be a team leader, then definitely you'd like to develop him. How do you do that? You may not have scope in the operational system itself to give separate projects to develop this. Toastmasters provides channel for development. And apart from choosing which particular set of skills to impart to him, the number of projects which are there goes up to 63. Of course, nobody does all 63, but we are free to pick and choose those which are going to add on to the skills that we want the person to inculcate. So if you go back to the points that I was mentioning, that what skills do we want our team members to get? Handle a meeting. See, there are projects in Toastmasters, managing a difficult audience, which actually makes that person practice this, how to handle a difficult audience, how to manage a panel discussion. It's a scope that the team member may not get otherwise of developing this skill, reaching a consensus. If you're leading a team, do a project on leading a team in any situation, maybe inside Toastmasters, maybe outside the scope of the company. Successful collaborations between, say, Toastmaster clubs or in your social circles, which you are getting a platform to present to your group saying how you've done that. Understanding conflict resolution, mentoring, these are all aspects which will make that person develop as a leader and will give an opportunity to the team leader to evaluate whether this person is doing well in this particular aspect. Similarly, how do we give the person a project to manage? Inside the work situation, it may not be possible. But you do a project in Toastmasters, managing successful events, planning and implementation, high-performance leaderships, which are not necessarily inside the scope of Toastmasters or the organization. And he will have some meat to get his teeth into and show what he can do in terms of managing a project. Similarly, the team leader needs to inspire. There are projects which communicate change to the group, inspiring the audience, persuasive speaking. Now, these are all skills which a member develops. He becomes a good leader as the months roll on. So, we can see that there are projects in Toastmasters which can offline. By offline, I mean not related to the corporate work, can develop a person, can help a team leader evaluate how the development is going on, whether he has potential in this particular aspect. Now, we are talking about team members, how to develop them, how to increase knowledge base, how to deepen knowledge base. But what about the boss? You're the boss, maybe. I was a boss for some time. I was also a subordinate in another team. But if I'm the boss, I think there is one skill which Toastmaster teaches, which nobody else teaches well, which is how to give feedback. Now, I was sharing with somebody just before I started that actually how to give feedback is necessary not only when you're teaching your team members things that they are junior to you. Sometimes some team members are jolly senior and you're becoming a new manager, and how the hell do you handle him? He knows everything he feels. Still you have to give him feedback. The process of evaluation in Toastmasters teaches how to give a structured, implementable, and motivating feedback. And that's a very, very important skill for any boss to have, and also for individuals to know how to give this feedback to other members, peer feedback. But definitely for the boss, this is a very important skill to know. And this Toastmaster teaches like nobody else. In conclusion, I'd like to say one thing. Albert Einstein once very famously said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And in a lot of companies, through the training courses, through off-site gatherings of the employees alone, we try to get different results by doing the same thing again. But friends, Toastmaster is something which is different. It's quite different. And it's worth trying because the result is going to be different. Toastmasters gives a different pathway, if I can say, for a different result, and it is an enjoyable process and yet a very effective process where the needs of a team in a corporate situation are very well met by the design of the projects that are there in Toastmasters. So that was a brief overview of my own learning when I've been in my own corporate situation and also interacting with the corporate club. That's all from my side. In case you have any questions, we can maybe handle it first.